And good morning, YouTube. It's BGM 1990-0114, aka Blind Gamer 1990, back at it again. And I thought this morning I'd do something a little different. No, I know you probably see the Injustice 2 pause menu screen, but I'm not doing that right now because it's too early, and I don't usually do fighting games early in the morning. Although I will occasionally play a lot of the classics, but what I decided to do is a little brief series I'm going to do regarding my retro game collection, which you probably can't see this, but I have a lot of these. And so, to get it started, I'm going to kick it up by looking at my Super Nintendo games, which I had these since, I guess, childhood. Although when I was a kid growing up here in Kentucky, we owned a Super Nintendo, and we had I remember I didn't have a lot of games that were mine because it was my brother's Nintendo, and I didn't have a TV at the time, and but it was a '97 when I got my first TV. But I had a PlayStation at the time. I have some PS1 games. We'll get into those another time, but I grew up playing a lot of these games, or never actually owned them legit. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to showcase these games, give you the name of them, and kind of explain my brush with them, so to speak, if possible. Because a lot of these I never had as a kid growing up. A lot of these came from Amazon, or shouts out to Boogie Music Exchange in Louisville for providing me with selling me some of these games that I bought from that particular store outlet, so to speak. So here's all my SNES, Super Nintendo Entertainment System games. And these, for the record, these are in alphabetical order, so that way I could do maybe in a complete lack of vision, I could tell what's what, so to speak. So here we go. All right, let's see. ABC's Monday Night Football. Now, this one I never owned this as a kid, but I remember having this on emulation, and from what I heard about the reviews, it was pretty damn sucky. And it ain't hard to see why, but, for nostalgia purposes, this is why I have this particular game. Shouts out to Amazon for helping me finding a copy of this. Art of Fighting, which is the SNK series. I remember playing this on emulation as well. We used to, play that when we had it growing up, rented from Blockbuster as kids growing up in Kentucky. We used to rent this game from Blockbuster. So that's a story. A lot of these games we also rented from Blockbuster as well, but some of these I never really legitimately played until a few years ago. So Art of Fighting, great game. Originally on the Neo Geo, I played it on the emulator on the PS3, which is kind of cool, but a great game. Barkley, Shut Up and Jam. Now, that one I remember growing up, we played on the Sega Genesis back when we had Sega Channel all those years ago. It was one of those deals where every 2 weeks or a month or so they would change out the games, and Barkley Shut Up and Jam was one of the ones that showed up in the list, and we played it on occasion. And I remember on the Genesis, Charles Barkley specifically saying, he'd be like, "Go get the damn ball," or something like that. So that was an irritating game to say the least. Charles Barkley, Shut Up and Jam. Bill Walsh College Football from EA Sports. I never played this as a kid, but it was one of those games that, was kind of, it was made around the Madden engine. It was a cool game. I enjoy it. But Bill Walsh College Football, a great game. Boxing, Legends of the Ring. Now this one I remember playing on Sega Genesis as a kid. It was kind of you could play as 8 of some of the greatest boxers in the world. No Ali though, but it was like Duran, LaMotta, Tony, Hagler, Graziano. What was it? I'm trying to think, because there was a lot of boxers in that game. It was 8, so it's kind of cool, but it's made by Sculptured Software, which made a lot of the games in the 90s. But it was a classic. Boxing Legends of the Ring, one of the better ones on the Nintendo, and I got a few endless hours of enjoyment out of it, also from an Amazon order, but yeah, great game. Brawl Brothers. Now, I remember this one because it's part of the Russian Beat series, or they in the States they made it not a series, but we could tell because in Japan it was a series, so we just kind of adapted it as such. But I remember playing this game and just going around beating the shit out of people with what looks like a wrestler and a cop, but it was one of those deals where you just run around beating the stun out of it. It was a beat 'em up for the time. Bulls versus Blazers in the NBA playoffs. Not much to say about that. A simple game that was not hard to figure out, but it was like the precursor to all of the NBA games you see now with the EA doing NBA Live and stuff, but not a bad start. Capcom's MVP Football. I don't have much to say about that one either. It has real teams, but no players because of no NFLPA license. But it's not a bad game if you don't know what you're doing. But I enjoy it. Clay Fighter. Now I remember Clay Fighter because we used to rent that game from Blockbuster. We played it all the time as kids, and I always loved playing as either Mr. Frosty or Tiny or Bonker. The Tiny was the wrestler and Bonker was the insane circus clown. But it was hilarious. We used to play it we only played it from Blockbuster rentals, so we very rarely got our hands on it. But a great game. Clay Fighter 2, Judgment Clay. Nice Terminator reference. Do it now! Kill me now! But we rented that from Blockbuster as well, and I remember playing that one for hours with my older brother. We would play like, he'd play like, I always picked Gugu because he was a fighting baby, and it was funny watching them just beat the snot out, Clay characters beat the snot out of each other. All right, Donkey Kong Country, the whole series, 1, 2, and 3, all have graced our home many a day. We used to play it all the time we legitimately owned Donkey Kong Country 1 and 2. But I don't think we legitimately owned 3 because we only rented it from Blockbuster. But the whole series was, I enjoyed it for the catchy soundtrack. That's kind of the reason why I got good enjoyment out of it. But yeah, Donkey Kong Country 1 was the best, 2 was just as good, and 3 was the same. So you can't really decide which one was the best because they were all great. But yeah, the Donkey Kong Country series I proudly own, 1, 2, and 3. Double Dragon 5: The Shadow Falls, a 2D fighting game which is basically a Street Fighter clone that I only played once as a kid from rented from Blockbuster, and it was alright. I enjoyed it, but basically I'm saying the same things, but there's a lot of these, so this video may take a few minutes. But Double Dragon 5, I actually was looking for that because I had heard so much about it growing up, and I played it, and I didn't remember what it was called I thought it was like some other weird fighting game, but I looked it up on the vim.net where I get my emulations, and it said Double Dragon 5: The Shadow Falls, and I looked on Wikipedia, it said it was a fighting game. I was like, huh, that's the game. And I played it, and I thought, huh, that's the game I used to play growing up. That had like the cool sound effects and the kick-ass music, and it was a good game. I enjoyed playing it. Let's see. Hang on. Let me figure out where where we are here. Hang on, I think I put this in the wrong place. Here we go. Earthworm Jim 1 and 2. I remember this game as a kid growing up. We played both of them on Sega and Super Nintendo, but we rented the first one. We rented this from Blockbuster a lot. Earthworm Jim, a great series of games. I loved playing it growing up, and I got a lot of hours of enjoyment out of that, especially watching the demo over and over and over again. But it's kind of it was one of the, it's an action platform adventure game, but still all the stuff in it is just totally insane. Same with the second one. You know, you get both games have cool music. You get endless hours of entertainment if you really want to keep playing it that long. But they're good games. Earthworm Jim 1 and 2. I thoroughly enjoyed them growing up. ESPN National Hockey Night. Not much to say about this, but it's one of those licensed by the NHL and ESPN, but not the PA, so no players. But it was nice to play a game that I didn't realize ESPN made games in the early 90s, or not directly, but they made games with the ESPN name on them. But due to the research, I found out that's exactly what happened, and I thought it was just insane. But yeah, ESPN National Hockey Night, a great game. I enjoyed it. You should check it out if you haven't already. ESPN Sunday Night NFL Football, or ESPN Sunday Night Football for short. Also, ESPN licensed game, NFL licensed, but no PA. Great game. I enjoyed this too. I've only had it for a brief period, but I got to play on an emulation, and it was just at the time, you know, when that's the thing. At the time when these games come out, it's like, you know, they're so retro, but it's just so cool. But sometimes they suck later on in life when you play them. But I enjoyed the ESPN games, in National Hockey Night and Sunday Night Football. I don't have baseball tonight, nor do I have Speed World because I haven't ordered those yet, but maybe I'll get those down the line. Fatal Fury. Now, I had the second Fatal Fury growing up, but I don't know what happened to it. The first one on the SNES sucked. It was terrible. The sound was bad. It sounded it was so crappy and glitched. Well, I can't really say glitched, but it was so crappy. And it was just terrible. So I didn't really enjoy this one as much. I really enjoyed the second one and Special as opposed to the original, which I have in my hand right now. But yeah, I prefer 2 and Special over the original. Final Fight and Final Fight 2. I remember playing Final Fight 2 growing up, and I didn't do too badly. You just run around beating the shit out of people, just like Brawl Brothers. It's a beat 'em up, so it's all the same, and all the censorship in the first one was like, why? But I understand the whole family-friendly policy, but it's nice to own a retro game like this, both of them actually, and be able to sit and play them, you know, just beating the shit out of people and finding the kidnapped victims, and in both games, beating up the thugs and hooligans and whatnot. It was so cool to play the original Final Fight and Final Fight 2. Let's see, Firepower 2000. This looks like a war game. I actually ended up with this via accident. Somebody sold this to me, and I didn't know it, and I wound up with it, and I said just keep it. And here I still got it today. But it's one of those. It's a war game kind of deal where you just run around blowing shit up, and it was so. This is an alright game. I like it. Foreman for Real, boxing game from Acclaim that I only played once growing up as a kid. rented from Blockbuster one weekend, and my grandpa and I played it, and he kicked my ass numerous times, but I enjoyed it. It sounds like the sound effects come from like the punching's like it comes from the Rocky films, but it just sounds so realistic. But the way that, from listening to reviews, the way the heads look, it's like the heads are like all over the place while the body is 3D. But a great game, Foreman for Real Boxing. I enjoy the SNES version over the Genesis because the Genesis has the music and the shitty sounds, but this version's much better. Frank Thomas, Big Hurt Baseball. I remember this game on PlayStation. A friend of mine from school had it, and he brought it over one time. And at KSB, we had a little bitty TV with the original PlayStation, and he brought this game over, and we played it the whole afternoon before we had to do homework and stuff, and we wore that disc out. But I didn't know this was on the SNES, but it was, and I got a copy of it, and it's not bad. You have an MLB and an MLBPA license, so you have both. I think you have an MLB license, but you got a PA license, definitely. You have both. And it's basically a simulation game, but it's not that bad. But Frank Thomas's Big Hurt Baseball is a game that I thoroughly enjoyed playing growing up with friends in school that had it and stuff. And it was really cool. George Foreman's KO Boxing. Never owned it, but it was the precursor to Foreman for Real, and it's basically like a Punch-Out ripoff, so to speak. I mean, you know, like you're this guy and you fight through a bunch of people. You could pick George Foreman and fight through it, but you know, he's the undisputed champion of the world. He's big, he's bad, he's back. But this was it's basically just like a Punch-Out clone, but not a bad game. I got some enjoyment out of it. George Foreman's KO Boxing. Hit the Ice. One of the funnier games I have ever played. It's one of those like cartoon hockey games that I can't really explain it, but if you've seen the videos on YouTube, you know that it's one of those bizarre like crazy fighting games that it's a hockey game, but there's a lot of craziness that goes into it. It's so funny watching like the referee drops the puck and then runs for his life. But Hit the Ice is a game that I enjoy. John Madden Football, the original on the SNES, along with John Madden Football in '93. Never played as a kid, but playing it now, I see the retro aspect, so to speak, of what the game was like in its early days, and it was insane. I mean, all you could do. Sure, the lack of an NFL PA license and real teams was a bummer, but what do you expect from the early days of the sports game genre? But John Madden Football and John Madden 93 are games that I enjoy playing. I enjoy playing a lot of these, but some of these more than others, but still, it's nice to have them as like a retro collection, so to speak. Killer Instinct. I knew I'd get to this. I remember playing this as a kid growing up with my grandmother. She owned a copy of it. She got it when she bought her Super Nintendo a few years ago, and let's just say I played the shit out of this game growing up as a kid. And funny, I only played the arcade version very rarely, but I played it at I think it was like a place in Tennessee. Tennessee when we were kids. We went to the Smoky Mountains for a week, and we were there, and we went to this. I guess it was either they had this game there, and I actually got to play. It may have been Dollywood, and I thought it was neat. I mean, it was so cool to play it, but. And when we got the SNES version, I thought, oh, we get to play the home version of this great fighting game, and it was like, some of it was chipped, but it was like, yeah, it's nice to play a version of it, and yeah, I enjoy this game. Killer Instinct. Lethal Enforcer is a game that we had as a kid. rented it from Blockbuster, and of course you can play with the controller, but it was always nice to play with the Justifier, you know, running around just aiming that gun at the screen, shooting enemies, and it was always so cool to shoot the bad guys, but you're not supposed to shoot the bystanders because you get penalized for it. But Lethal Enforcer is a great game. I recommend it if you haven't played it. It's a classic. Madden 94 and Madden 96. A bit of a fun fact, Madden 96 was originally going to be released on the PS1, and there's ROM files of it, but unfortunately it was canceled before it could ever be released to the public. But there is a ROM of the game on the internet, and I actually have it. But the early days of Madden were just were great. I mean, so much you could, like I said with John Madden, so much you could do, and it was so cool to play these games, and you know, just learn about playing good football and stuff like that. And I enjoy these games, Madden 94 and Madden 96. MLB PA Baseball. Great game, as stated earlier. Not licensed by the MLB, but it has a PA license, which means there are actual players in the game, which is totally cool. But I enjoy this one too. MLB PA Baseball. Yeah, the reviews said it sucked, but hey, to a blind guy to play any retro game like this, how could you pass it up? MLB PA Baseball. I knew we'd get to this. Mortal Kombat. Oh man, I remember this as a kid. Not the first one because of how shitty it was, due to the whole no inclusion of blood. You can't have blood in the first one, but I remember this game very, very infamously as a kid. And being blind, you can't really see all the violence and the blood and the guts and the gore. But it's like, hey, if you can't see it, what's the point of complaining? Let him play. But I never played MK1 on the SNES, but I did play on the Genesis growing up, and I could see how it outsold the SNES version, and I guess and with the help of emulation, I've been able to play the arcade version, and it totally blows me away. Now, Mortal Kombat 2 and Mortal Kombat 3, I remember these growing up too. One of my cousins had MK2 on the SNES. I remember playing it, going, "Wow, this is just totally insane." To do all that. I didn't know how to do all the fatalities at the time because A, there wasn't any manual, and B, there wasn't no internet yet. But it was like, you can kill people in this game. I was like, wow, rip their heads off and stab people. It was so insane, but it was so enjoyable too to be playing MK2 and 3. I actually enjoyed these, but yeah, the Mortal Kombat games I thoroughly enjoyed. But I'm debating on whether to shorten this up by just giving you the list of games and skipping the explanation, but because a lot of the games I never played as a kid, and some of them I did, so if you see me skip on to the next one, I never played it as a kid, but I'll give a little review if I've played it before. NBA All-Star Challenge. NBA Give and Go. This is a good game. I enjoy playing this. Due to emulation and owning the actual cartridge. It's made by Konami, which they made great games in the early 90s, especially over in Japan. I may get into that before too long too. But NBA Give and Go, great game. NBA Jam and NBA Jam Tournament Edition. We played the shit out of these games as kids. My couple cousins of mine owned the actual original NBA Jam with Charles Barkley on it, and we played it for hours, and I always lost it as a kid, but I actually enjoyed these games growing up. NBA Jam and NBA Jam Tournament Edition. Play them if you haven't. I recommend it. NBA Live 95. NBA Showdown. The precursor to NBA Live. We're getting deep into the collection now. NCAA basketball. I remember this as a kid, but I actually enjoy it now that I actually have it. NCAA football. Played it on Sega Genesis as a kid. It was alright. I enjoyed it. I recommend it playing if you haven't. NFL football. Probably the cheesiest game ever, but made by Konami. Not bad. I didn't play it as a kid, but I remember on emulation having it. It was nice. I enjoyed it, but the reviews said it was all sucky and cheesy, but it was like, if being a blind gamer, it's like, hey, if you can play it, why not? NFL football. NFL Quarterback Club. NFL Quarterback Club 96. Oh man, great games. I enjoy these. Nice to play as NFL players from the early 90s. Troy Aikman. What's his name? Bubby Brister from the Steelers. Neil O'Donnell, I think, is in here. Hofstadler. Jeff Hofstadler, I think is his name. A lot of the greats that played in the early 90s. Warren Moon, he's in here too. But made by Acclaim and highly enjoyable. I recommend you check out NFL Quarterback Club. The whole series if you haven't. They're really good. NHL Stanley Cup. Played it briefly as a kid and enjoyed it. NHL PA Hockey 93. Also enjoy this one. I recommend you play it if you haven't. The precursor to the NHL series. Let's see. Primal Rage. One of the more violent video games out there. I remember playing this as a kid. I played this before my mom passed away, and I liked it. It was a good game. I didn't realize how censored it was. Back reading on the internet, I was like, they censored all the violence and stuff. You can't do anything. You just beat the snot out of somebody, and then that's all. But there's not a lot of violence about it. But Primal Rage, a great game. I recommend you play it if you haven't already. Pro Quarterback. Revolution X. Starring Aerosmith. I remember this game as a kid growing up. Ran it from Blockbuster several times, and playing it by myself, I didn't get very far. But watching my brother play, he got pretty far in it, and it was nice to hear retro Aerosmith tunes and Eat the Rich, Fever, Loving the Elevator, an instrumental version, and Dude Looks Like a Lady, Toys in the Attic. I don't know where that comes in, but I think it's there. And Ragdoll and the Attract sequence. That little instrumental loop played over and over and over. But a great game. Play it if you haven't. It's really good. Riddick Bowe Boxing. Rival Turf. Just like Brawl Brothers before, a great beat 'em up game like Final Fight. I recommend you play it if you haven't. It's really enjoyable. Samurai Showdown. Now, I didn't get this game growing up. I played it, but I didn't understand it because I thought it was like all this Japanese people yapping in their native tongue and all of that. But I thought they're fighting with swords, so it's got to be. That's what all I thought it was just a sword game, and then it was like I did more, and it was like this isn't so bad. But from SNK and Takara. Samurai Showdown, played on Neo Geo. It's really good. But here it's not so bad either. Great game, Samurai Showdown. Saturday Night Slam Masters. I finally own a copy of this cartridge. And I remember this game being rented by my brother from Video Dave's. And just the nostalgia of putting this game in the Nintendo and playing it for hours. back in the day was just, oh my God. And I literally was asking all my friends that had a Super Nintendo if they owned this game or what it was even called. And it was like, I kept looking on Wikipedia and they had information about it, and I thought, I'm never going to see this game again. It was a one of a kind, and then thank God for Amazon and a vendor that sold it to me from Florida. Thank you very much. But Saturday Night Slam Match is one of the best wrestling games out there from Capcom. It's basically Final Fight with a pin button, but I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I enjoyed playing it with my older brother. Watching him play, it was really cool. Spider-Man and X-Men Arcade Revenge. Also ended up with this game by accident, but I enjoy it. Star Fox. One of the more frequently rented games as a kid growing up. Played it a lot, and I think we wound up buying it at one point. But it's one of those high-res games that I enjoy playing. I didn't understand what all that gibberish was. It was like all that stuff. But it was really cool to play the original Star Fox. I enjoy it. Play it if you haven't. And now, one of my all-time favorites, Street Fighter II, The World Warrior. I remember this game as a kid. My brother owned it, and my mom and I played it for hours. Just could not stop playing it. And it's so interesting to look back and say, I actually own this now. But Street Fighter II, The World Warrior on the SNES, play that if you haven't. I recommend it. If you don't have it, you're crazy. If you do, more power. Congratulations, you own a piece of history. This game was awesome. I enjoy it back then, and I enjoy it now. Street Fighter II Turbo Hyper Fighting. It's just as good, an upgrade. Street Fighter Alpha 2. Now, I remember playing this game once from Blockbuster. Rented it before Thanksgiving in '96. And it was alright. I didn't like the slowdowns or the loading time before fights, but this was a nice sequel, I guess, or prequel as it's built. But, yeah, it's better on the PS1 version in the arcade game, but not bad. Street Fighter Alpha 2. The Super Bases Loaded series. Super Bases Loaded 1, Super Bases Loaded 2, and Super Bases Loaded 3, License to Steal. The great games made by Jellico, and I enjoy these. The first one was alright. The second one was excellent. The third was just as good. Had an MLB and an MLBPA license, not MLB license, but had MLBPA, which means you got all the players from 1993 and 4, I believe. 93, I believe, was when the roster was at the time. But these are great games. I recommend you play them if you haven't. I enjoyed them. Super Mario All-Stars. My grandmother played this growing up, and what was always so cool about it was when Super Mario Brothers 2, whenever you get to that gambling game at the end or between levels where you would get an extra life or die, she let me play it, and I always would end up with nothing at times. But it was always cool to play all three Super Mario Brothers SNES style. I remember playing the original as a kid, and it was like I liked it for the music. It was so catchy. It was just to sing along, it was like and I would literally sit there with the tape recorder and record that and just let the clock run out and die. It was so funny, but that's how it was as a kid. I played this game a lot. Both on the original NES and the Super Nintendo. Let's see. Super Mario Kart. I remember this one too. It also had a kick-ass, catchy soundtrack, but it was fun to watch my brother play it, but because he owned it as a kid. And great game. Pick it up if you haven't already. But Super Mario Kart, I enjoyed it as a kid. We actually owned it, and I got it used for a good cheap amount, thanks to Book and Music Exchange. and it's great. I really enjoy it. Catchy soundtrack. I can't race worth a shit, but it's nice to hear all the music and stuff. But yeah, Super Mario Kart. And what SNES Collector's Edition would be complete without Super Mario World? My grandmother owned this, and how do I know? Because she burnt a part of the front covering on the cartridge with a cigarette once. That's how I could tell it's Mario World, because of that little hole in the rip in the burn hole in the stickering, I guess. But we played this game all the time as a kid. I like the level where it's all. It's just that little that beat over and over and over again, and I got a lot of endless hours of entertainment out of that. I sucked, but it was always nice to watch. Always nice to watch my folks play it. It was really good. Super Punch-Out! Oh, I raved over this game. I wanted it so badly as a kid, and I got it for Christmas in 1994, I believe, is when I got it. And we wore it out when we ran it from Blockbuster that one time. When it came out, we just did not stop playing it. I mean, beat the game over and over and over again, and it was just so... They say it's a visual game, but if you know what you're doing, you'll do fine. I recommend you play it if you haven't. It's a nice retro game, and I enjoy it. Super Punch-Out! Super RBI Baseball 95. Not much to say about that one, except, it's nice to hear Jack Buck on a SNES game, but that's a good one. Super Street Fighter 2, The New Challengers. As a kid, this game was at the top of the list. We played it for hours when we rented from Blockbuster. That's a lot of things we got from the rental stores, and it was so cool to play them, but for the brief time we had it, we played it for hours, just trying to beat it and all of that, and we wore it out. But I enjoy this game, having it now as a retro gamer and having it for the nostalgia. But yeah, Super Street Fighter 2, The New Challengers, great game. Tecmo Super Bowl. I remember this game as a kid. Not much as a rented or previously owned game, but to see all the commercials for it and stuff, it was so insane. But this game has NFL and NFLPA license. Not bad for a Tecmo game in the early 90s, but yeah, this game, it's the spawn of a legend, and it's great. I recommend you play it if you haven't. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4, Turtles in Time. Great game. I recommend you play it. It's one of those... we played it as kids growing up. My brother and I and his friends that would come over, we'd play it, and it's always nice to play as the Turtles and just kick some ass. It's like Final Fight, but with Ninja Turtles, and you're beating up foot soldiers and all of that. I remember this game very vividly growing up. It was so cool to play. One of the classics, but yeah, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4, Turtles in Time. Alright, let's see what else we got in here. TMNT Tournament Fighters. That's it came out in the early 90s, made by Konami as well. And we played this game a lot from Blockbuster or any other rental store that sold it, and we enjoyed it. But yeah, this is good. This is a good game. I recommend you play it. If you haven't, you should check it out. It's it's quite the it's a fighting game like Street Fighter, but with Ninja Turtles and a bunch of other characters. Friends of mine and I used to play it for hours, and we wore out the cartridge. It kept freezing a lot when we play it because the unit was so hot. But yeah, this is a great game. I recommend you play it. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Tournament Fighters. The Death and Return of Superman. This game, I don't remember it much, but I remember playing it once from Blockbuster, and it was alright. I enjoyed it. But if you like playing as a crime fighter like this, you can check this out for yourself. I don't know much about it, but it's not a bad game. Got good sound and got a good soundtrack, but pretty good. The Death and Return of Superman. The Peacekeepers. I love this game. Part of the Russian Beat series, but you wouldn't know in the States. But yeah, this game is it's like Final Fight and Rival Turf and Brawl Brothers. Just beat them up, but you just go around beating the shit out of people, and it's basically the same, but with cool ambience noises from like a factory to what looks like a airplane to a slaughterhouse. But this game's insane. I really enjoy it. You should play it if you haven't. The Peacekeepers. And I see we're getting to the nitty gritty of a lot of the good ones. Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3. Same as the MK games earlier. Great game. Enjoy it as a kid. Only problem with it is it doesn't say the character's name when you pick them, which I understand because they had to fit all the new ones in, and you couldn't really do it all at once. But I got hours of entertainment out of this. So did my older brother. We played it all the time growing up, and it's nice to have it. I recommend you get it if you haven't already. If you own a Super Nintendo, you will enjoy this one. I recommend it. Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3. Let's see. Finally a Simpsons game. The Simpsons Virtual Bart. Ran this game a couple times from Blockbuster. Loved the soundtrack and all of the sounds and the Bart's dialogue, which is brief. I think I said it was the first game to have actual dialogue from the vocal interaction from the characters. But I think the Simpsons Nightmare, which I do not own yet, had that too, but you could barely tell. But this game is good. It's one of those. It's kind of cheesy, but not bad for its time. But Virtual Bart, I recommend it if you haven't played it yet. It's pretty good. And I see we're about done. We've reached our last letter of games, and here's another one. WCW Super Brawl Wrestling. Boy, I remember this game as a kid. I didn't know what it was when I first saw it, because my brother was playing it with his friends, and it was guys were just punching and kicking and hitting each other, and this guy was talking, and I kept calling it smack and body slam, where it was, and then my brother was like, "No, dude, this is WCW Super Brawl Wrestling." I was like, "Huh, that's what it was." But I rented it from Blockbuster countless times. As a matter of fact, a bit of a sad story goes into this. This was the last game that my mother rented for me before she passed away, and I remember crying when I got home the night that I think it was a Wednesday. It was a Thursday night, I think it was, and I cried because it was the last thing she did for me before she died. Rented me this game, and I remember sleeping in my brother's room playing it, and he was off with our grandmother, and we played this. I remember my mom ran this game after she went to the doctor the Monday after Easter, and she ran it for me, and I couldn't quit playing it. And practically I couldn't tear my eyes away from the characters left screen, because I like listening to characters come out and say their phrases and stuff. You want Vader, or woo. So, or was it more like woo or woo? Yeah, there it is. Close enough. But yeah, this is a good game. One of those early wrestling games. We rented it all the time and played it a lot. I enjoyed it. WCW Super Brawl Wrestling. I recommend you check it out. World Heroes and World Heroes 2. Originally on the Neo Geo in the arcade in the early 90s. I prefer you play. You can play these versions if you like, if you own them, but if you have a Neo Geo or have an emulation for it, you'd like that version better, because you get better music and sound. But these two aren't bad games. I really enjoy these. I like playing as Muscle Power because he looks like Hulk Hogan. But World Heroes and World Heroes 2, great games. Check them out if you haven't. They're really good. Nice to play as guys that are traveled through time to who's the best of all, the greatest of all time, and it's so cool to play these games. But World Heroes and World Heroes 2, check those out if you haven't. And finally, the purpose of my nostalgia, the WWF games. That's right, WWF, because it's what it says on the cartridge. Let's see, we got WWF Raw, WWF Royal Rumble, WWF Super WrestleMania, and WWF WrestleMania, the arcade game. Yes, I remember these games very, very vividly as a kid, playing them growing up. I thought they sounded a lot different than they do now when I started, because I remember playing Raw on emulation, and it was like, I don't remember it sounding like that. Well, actually, I saw videos on YouTube, and it was like, all I kept finding was the roster and music playing of the actual music of the stars, and I'm like, I don't remember it sounding like that. But I played it on emulation, and that's what it was. And then shout out to Book and Music Exchange again for having these games. Well, they had Raw, but they had Royal Rumble and Super WrestleMania and the arcade game, were all three of those were based off of from an Amazon order. And shout out to them for helping me have those games. And but yeah, if you grew up playing the old WWF games, enjoyable. Not exactly a button masher, but you can go in it that way, but you will get your ass kicked a vast majority of the time. It was nice to play as in Raw. I remember playing as Diesel and just, Bret Hart and the Undertaker, and it was Yokozuna, Lex Luger, and all that. It was so cool. And the Royal Rumble, I remember as a kid growing up, and my brother ran it from Blockbuster, and I didn't know who the hell these guys were. Randy Savage, Mr. Perfect, Ric Flair. Ric Flair was in it. I didn't know Ric Flair was in it till a buddy of mine told me. He said, dude, yeah, Ric Flair was in it. Crush, rest in peace. The Narcissist, Yokozuna, Razor Ramon, and Shawn Michaels. Not to mention Taker and Bret Hart. It blew my mind back then. I kept asking my brother, what is that? He never explained it when we were kids. It was like, then my dad said, hey, this is WWF Royal Rumble. I was like, nice. And I couldn't stop playing it. It was an enjoyable game when I was a kid. And WWF Super WrestleMania, I remember this game. I actually owned it growing up. My grandmother on my mom's side had bought it for me from I think it was Walmart. They actually had it at Walmart, and I wanted to play it so bad that my uncle, God love him, had to get the SNES and bring it over here. Or actually, we had the SNES here, but he went and brought the cartridge over, and it was like, I kind of felt guilty because I asked him to bring it over and stuff, and he did. And I was gonna wait and see. I was gonna see him that weekend. I was gonna play it then, but I couldn't wait. It was like, oh my God, I actually have this game, and it was like, where else can you find Randy Savage, Jake Roberts, Hulk Hogan, Undertaker, the Legion of Doom, the Natural Disasters, Ted DiBiase, and Sid Justice all in one game? Or I still call him Sid Vicious, but it's Sid Justice here. But this game was part of my childhood, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And finally, we've reached about the end, and WWF WrestleMania, the arcade game. I remember this game vividly as a kid, playing it at a Walmart where they have arcade games briefly. I remember playing this game and putting cores in the machine and doing quite well for myself, if I do say so. And I didn't really own the SNES version, but I did own the PlayStation version growing up, and that had better sound, but lacked the music during the fighting. The arcade game, SNES game, and the Genesis game, which I didn't know It was on the Sega Genesis, so I looked on the internet, and it said Sega Genesis, Sega 32X, PC, DOS, PS1, SNES, and arcade. I was like, wow. But it's Doink the Clown, Bret Hart, Undertaker, Razor Ramon, Shawn Michaels, and Lex Luger. Only six guys in this game. They don't have Bam Bam Bigelow, and they don't have Yokozuna, because I guess you can't really fit them on the cartridge like this, especially with the way the game is constructed. It's more like a fighting game, but with wrestling moves. But if you want to play this game, you can play the SNES game if you have it, but I recommend you play it on either the PS1, DOS if you have it, or the arcade version if you have MAME emulation, or you have a local pizza joint that has it. But I recommend you play those versions if you want the whole roster and better, music and sound. But this isn't a bad game, and not a bad. I enjoyed it. I remember playing it at the campground when I was 7. My brother had rented it, and it was like all these guys in just digitized. It was so cool. But that's the only time I ever played this version, was at the campground. I never played it again till emulation several years later, and then I got the cartridge in the mail from an Amazon order. But I recommend you play this game if you haven't. WWF WrestleMania, the arcade game. Well, that's going to do it here. That's all my SNES games. What do you think of my vast collection? I hope you enjoyed this look back at my retro SNES games. I will be doing more of these over time, so and more videos are coming soon, and stick around, because maybe later today I may do a Injustice stream as planned, as I said last night during the Tekken 7 stream, which was laggy and slow at times. But thank you very much for checking out this video, and it's Blind Gamer Man, aka it's BGM 1990-0114, aka Blind Gamer 1990, saying, let me try it again. It's BGM 1990-0114, aka Blind Gamer 1990, saying, have a good day, and I will see you all real soon.